Hi everyone and welcome to our Bestmed Wellness Podcast. Today we've got the privilege of having Linsay Engelbrecht with us. She's a South African para-athlete. So Linsay has competed in 9 international para-triathlon events, earned 5 podium finishes and also won 5. She represented South Africa in the 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, and she also started with bowls in 2023. Linsay, welcome. And just tell us a little bit about the bowls. How did that start?
Thanks, Kobus. Thanks for having me. And looking forward to just telling a little bit about my story. So in terms of the bowls, I started playing in 2023. That's lawn bowls. And then I entered the nationals in 2024, and I had the privilege of winning double gold in 2024. So both the singles and the pairs events. So very excited, even though I was a novice. And just, really, really enjoying the lawn bowls at the moment.
Yeah, that's something completely different from the triathlons.
Yeah, absolutely. Triathlon, it's fast, it's furious, it's the training is very different. But I was going through a bit of a life change in 23, and I decided to take on something a little bit more relaxing. Tried the lawn bowls out, really enjoyed it. However, competing at the level I'm now, it's very mentally challenging. I'm really enjoying it, but it's not just an easy, relaxing game as what I thought it would be. There really does take a lot of strength, mental strength in playing it. But really, really enjoying the bowls at the moment.
It's excellent. Just take us a little bit through, us now being novices. The triathlons, let's just take a step back. What does that all include? What is it? Is it just cycling, running, and what's the distances?
I was introduced to para-triathlon in 2020. And if you take para-triathlon to an international level, you only compete in your sprint distances, which means that you swim a 750-meter swim, you cycle a 20K cycle, and then you run 5Ks. So it's short and sharp. You have to come within a certain percentage of the winner. So if you're competing on an international level, within a certain time for you to actually gain points. And the whole thing about competing internationally is that you want to be within the top 10 or top 15 ladies on the World Triathlon platform. So earning points all the time. But again, you have to be good enough so that you are getting these points versus the winner that is doing it really quickly. And the winner at the moment, and has been for a while, is Susana Rodriguez from Spain. And her triathlons are always around about the hour and 5 minutes. So you have to be equally as strong. We're obviously not as strong as that. But, what I'm trying to say is it's not just a matter of doing the triathlon. You have to still finish well. Otherwise, you're not earning the points.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the 750 meters that you have to swim, is that open water?
Yeah, so mostly open water. There are some dams that you would swim in, just depending on which country you're competing in. So either the sea or a dam. So it just depends where you are. You are obviously tethered to your guide. So, for example, I can't see the boys in the sea or in the dam. So we are literally tethered together by the knee with a very stretchy tether. And all I have to do is just make sure that I swim and get to the finish line. The guide is basically there to guide and make sure that we go around the right boys, swimming to the right boys at the right time, etc., etc. I just have to literally put my head down and swim. And if I do veer off, the tether does pull us back together, which has often happened. So, that tether is critical for us.
So you've got a guide with you for cycling, for running, everything?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you are, competing on an international level, you have to have a same-sex guide. So for me, I have to have a female guide, which is something very new because I'd always done sport mostly with my husband. In fact, that's how I was introduced to sport really on not as a really social level, but more of a competing level with my husband. So finding another woman to compete with was quite challenging, but also exciting at the same time. So I've met some lovely ladies that have given up their time for me. And so it has to be the same sex if you're competing on an international level with triathlon.
And
with
they
lawn bowls,
obviously have to be fit also.
absolutely. In fact, they should be fitter.
Yes.
Because their eyes are your eyes, and they're having to check your pace, check the watch. They have to be your eyes on the swim, making sure they see the boys. So there's a lot of concentration there. And yes, definitely, they should actually be fitter than what you are. So to find someone that's probably competed at a very high level and now is sort of willing to give back to the sport. So they come into your space, give up their time, etc., so that you can actually accomplish your goals. So yeah, it's been a very interesting journey.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You mentioned there training with your husband, but let's take it a step back. Where did you start with your sporting background? Where did you grow up? When did you, which type of sports did you do growing up?
So I grew up in the south, in Bracken Downs, and I did everything everyone else did at school, netball, tennis, that sort of thing. I think I played first team tennis, etc., etc. I wasn't aware of the Stargardts, even though it's a juvenile macular degeneration. So AMD is your age-related. So most of elderly people get the same condition I have, but I have the juvenile version, which means I was actually born with it. But my onset was only when I was 23. So doing sports and that sort of thing, I wasn't really affected.
So sorry, this was now when you were, this was in 2006, I think you were diagnosed.
I was diagnosed in 2006 when I was 23.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So prior to that, I wore glasses and that sort of thing, but mostly every child wears glasses. And you sit pretty close in class if you want to, because you could see the board better, but there was no level of concern. It was only when I sort of reached the age of 23 that my mum started querying why I was sitting so close to the computer. It was just unusually close. And so we started investigating and going through a lot of testing. I've seen quite a few ophthalmologists because it was very strange to have sort of had this onset all of a sudden. And that was it. I was diagnosed at 23 with Stargardt's, yeah. So just central vision loss.
Sure. Because at what moment did you realize that, sport could be more than just a hobby or some, weekend type of thing to keep yourself busy with? Yeah.
So mentioning my husband, he's a fitness fanatic. Anything to do with fitness, he doesn't need a goal. It's just everyday train. He's one of those. And when I met him, that's it. He wanted to introduce me to his world. So we started running, we started cycling, and no swimming at that stage. But in fact, I couldn't even run 2 kilometers around. I don't know if you know Kensington, there's a park there, Rhodes Park. I could not run around there. It was 2 kilometers. It just wasn't. So anyway,
in terms of what? Just out of breath? Or?
Just fitness, out of breath, just not able to, something, I suppose, if you're not used to doing and you haven't trained, and et cetera, et cetera. So just building up. But I did it. I moved from 2Ks and more. And then I did a 6K and I entered my first 10K. And I promise you it was baby steps. It really was. How he actually persevered with me, who knows? But he did. And then he introduced me to cycling. So obviously on a tandem bicycle. I would never get on a bicycle on my own. And so we started cycling, which I absolutely loved. And then I started just marking some things off my bucket list. So I had the 94.7 cycle challenge and the Argus in those days. Comrades was on my bucket list as well. All of these things that I thought I'd never be able to do because I actually didn't see myself as an athlete whatsoever. And in 2018, I ran my first Comrades, and I decided to do my back-to-back in 2019, and that was done. And then I think in those 2 years as well, I recycled the 94.7.
So you did the Comrades once?
Twice.
Oh, twice.
2018 and 2019. So my back-to-back is done. I did it unaided, unassisted. So my running club at that stage was JP Quandam. I heard that they were one of the best running clubs around. They had a water point at every 15 kilometers leading up to Comrades. They had some really lovely different schools. And so I joined them because at that stage my husband was following me in the car while I was training, and it was just becoming a bit too much. So my close friends knew that I couldn't see centrally. So any potholes or a brick in the road that looks a bit, or a branch or something, they would tell me. But it wasn't really something that I enjoyed telling people about. I never wanted anyone to feel sorry for me or feel that they needed to make special arrangements for me. So I really did tell as few people as what I did. At work, my staff knew that I was visually impaired, but it wasn't something that I spoke about openly. But something really profound in 2020 happened. Retina South Africa, and I was a member of Retina since I was diagnosed, phoned me and asked me if I'd like to be on the first Stargardt trial that was coming to South Africa, the first one ever. That was number one. And number two, they offered me a free entry to do the Discim ride for sight because they had heard I'd been cycling. But as a disabled rider, and I was a bit taken aback because I don't see myself as disabled. Anyways, I did the race with my husband on a tandem, and we actually podiumed in 2020, and that was just before lockdown. And I met someone on the podium that also had Stargardt's, and he introduced me to paratriathlon, which was a completely different world. I didn't know anything about parasport. I didn't even know parasport, to be honest, existed. I mean, I think when it's not in your face, and there's not a lot of awareness around parasport. So I was sort of introduced to that, and I started competing as a para-athlete. Yeah.
That's excellent. So just quickly, could you briefly just describe how your diagnosis affected you initially? Just were you depressive? Were you down?
I think for anybody that is diagnosed initially, you have so many emotions. You're angry, you're upset, you're sad. You're actually very confused. You don't know what's going on, and you start using Google for all sorts of funny things, which you shouldn't. Trying to find herbal medicines, trying to find this, because at the end of the day, Stargardt's has no cure. There is no treatment. There is no cure. And it's a reality that you don't want to. It's a pill that you don't want to swallow. So yeah, I went through a lot of emotions, and in fact, I was in denial. I was in denial for probably a good 18 years, to be honest, because until I was exposed to parasport in 2020, it was not something I liked to talk about. I didn't want people to know. I tried to hide away from it. Just close family and friends that were aware of it. But then I realized in 2020 that I do have a voice. I can do this, and it's okay to talk about what's actually happening and what's going on. And when I did start talking about it and telling people about Stargardt's, I could see that people were really I can't say enjoying what I was saying, but they were so intrigued to hear that they'd known me for 20 years, and I'd had this whole time, and I've adjusted and I've adapted, and I've tried to look normal, if I could put it that way.
No, but that's the thing, with most people, you can see it's a disability. Maybe there's something, amputated leg or arm, or, you'll never say that if you look at it.
Yes. And it's a huge thing. So this condition is an invisible disease. And it has its pros and cons to that, because I will fit in with society, because society are very judgmental. I don't need a cane yet, and I don't have a guide dog. A lot of people that I know that have Stargardt's do already have canes and guide dogs, and at a young age. I met a lady 3 weeks ago in Cape Town at an outreach, and she's just turned 25, and she's still coming to terms with it. Still doesn't have a cane, but she's almost completely blind. So
is that the eventuality?
It is. It's a progressive disease. I personally believe, and I think this is where my journey sort of is where I'm at now, is that because I lead a very healthy lifestyle, and I'm very fit and active, I do feel that plays a role in sustaining the vision that I have. Again, it's just my theory, but it's part of the Parasport development program that I'm trying to build up at Retina South Africa, because I want there to be evidence that is on paper from universities to show that, with good lifestyle, good decisions in terms of eating habits, etc., that you can sustain the vision that you have. So I do fully believe that I have still the vision that I have. And there is progressive loss. I saw my ophthalmologist 2 or 3 weeks ago, and my right eye has deteriorated quite substantially since she last saw me. But again, it's not as bad as probably what it should be I'm 43 now. So again, everyone is different, but that's what I believe.
No, look, definitely. I think with any disease, any condition, at the end of the day, if you're training, eating healthy, obviously you can...
Absolutely. And I think your mindset plays a vital role in it too. And stress. I find when I'm stressed, my eyes, I can hardly see out of my eyes. So keeping away from stress, not being on the computer too much. I find that when I strain my eyes on the computer, I battle to see. And then your mindset as well. I think, when you are depressed and you're unhappy and you sort of go into that dark hole, your eyes are affected even more. So remaining within that positive mindset is very important. And again, that's why I say going back to 2020, it was so many profound things that happened that year. And during lockdown, I had a lot of time to think about where I wanted to go with this whole journey in terms of parasport and changing my mindset and my outlook on life in terms of this is happening. If I like it or not, it's happening. So let me do good with what I have, what I've been given. Let me show people what I can do. And if I can be a voice for others or inspire others, then I feel that I've done my bit.
Definitely. You've definitely inspired me today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So with, what was your biggest adjustment, you now being a triathlete, a multidisciplinary sport athlete, what was your biggest adjustment in terms of training, equipment, everything?
Yeah, so in terms of sport, there is an adjustment because you can't just jump on your bike and go for a ride. You can't just jump in your car and go for a run, go to a club and run. You've got to make those adjustments within your space. So even having a gym contract, it's all very well, but I actually have to then get to the gym to be able to work out.
And probably also a lot of scheduling because you have to have someone with you.
No, absolutely. So I'm in an area now that's pretty secure. So I can actually go for a run on my own. Like I said, I run to comrades unaided. So I can do this without somebody. I've just got to be very careful, especially if there's lots of potholes, if it's been raining. The lighting also makes a difference. So if there's a lot of shade over the road, it's difficult to see the holes, the potholes, the stones, that sort of thing. So I have to just be really awake when running. You can't sort of zone out. I have to be really focused on what I'm doing. I do often take my staffy with so that she is in front of me. So if there's anything, she generally does move out the way, but she's not a guard dog, believe me. She's not a guard dog, but it does help,
So for what times do you aim for? Early morning?
Very early mornings,
Most light, yes. Then sun coming up, you can see most of the potholes.
Absolutely. Although even with comrades, you run in the dark. So you're running with a light, but you're running with the lights in your head, you're running with lights in your hand, you're doing whatever you can so that you can see. But no, I don't really run in the dark at all, not unless I'm with someone. But going back to adjusting, so I do have an indoor trainer at home and my weight training. So everything is mostly done at home. And if I do need to get outside on the bicycle, it's with somebody. So like I said, I have various female guides that I've had over the years since 2020. Often give them a call, obviously in advance. They come through, we ride together. I can run alone, which is great. I don't really swim as much anymore. But in terms of lawn bowls, I need a director. So it wasn't something that I mentioned. So I've never competed on an international level yet. So it doesn't have to be same sex. So I do have 3 or 4 different directors now already, which I feel I'm very privileged to have because entering into bowls in 23, no one actually knew. There were very, very few people that actually could help me. Even my own club, they'd heard about people playing that were visually impaired, but there wasn't much awareness there. So I've definitely brought awareness within my club and within my district, which is the Ekurhuleni district. And I'm very fortunate to have a few directors that I can rely on if I need to play a game. So because the jack and the bowls, the greens are 33 meters, I can't see there. So I have a little thing called a monocular. So not a binocular, just one monocular, which I use, which most of your B athlete, not B1s, your B2s and B3s and B4s that will play with a monocular so they can see the jack and be interactive within the game. But you do still need a director. So my director will find the green for me so that my ball is going to the jack and not just going off anywhere. So I do need I can't actually play balls without a director. So again, fully reliant on someone to be able to play sport. So
the lawn bowls, as you've mentioned to me now before we started, that you're going 2026, you're going to the Commonwealth Games.
So yes, it was actually announced just 3 weeks ago that I'm on the long list. There's 2 of us for our B3 athletes that are on the long list, myself and a lady by the name of Princess. And it's so strange because Princess and I played together as national partners in 2023, and we actually won gold together in pairs. So, yeah, it's interesting. But yes, we're on the long list for Commonwealth, and I think selection takes place, I think, in February next year, because Commonwealth Games is in July 2026, and feeling very privileged to be involved in that. I really didn't think for bowls right now that would be on the cards. My goal was actually to possibly represent South Africa in 2027 in New Zealand. But this has come up, and yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, but you're almost already prepared, because you know in 2022 you did the triathlon, the para triathlons already at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. And that, just take us through just what was the lead up like, you know, because obviously you're stepping onto the international stage. It's big. There's a lot of cameras, a lot of lights, you know, it's just, how was it?
Yeah, that was one of those surreal moments, those pinch me moments. Is this really happening? It was unbelievable. We obviously had the ceremony here in South Africa, in Joburg. Everyone was there. We got our shirts. We had a little bit of a breakfast, meeting everybody, all the other athletes. I mean, people you only hear of on TV, all our elite athletes. I mean, we were on stage. It was absolutely phenomenal. The para-athlete group is obviously really small, and they don't actually include all sporting disciplines at every Commonwealth Games. So in fact, this 2026, there will be no triathlon at this year's. 2022, there was also lawn bowl representation. And I know this because I met the lawn bowls team there. In fact, we stayed in the same dormitory, and they were like, "Oh, Linsay, you have to come and try lawn bowls." And I said, "Really? Why? I'm so young."
Because you're going from such an active sport to such an inactive.
No, I know. So my mind wasn't even at bowls, thinking bowls at all. But yeah, so it was interesting. But, yeah, so being at the Commonwealth, even the pre-day training, your race briefing, being around all those athletes, we compete on the same event venue with the elite athletes. I promise you, it feels like you're at the Tour de France. You know, it's crazy. Not that I've been to the Tour de France, but I'm just saying, just watching it on TV, it's completely surreal. It was amazing just being around such phenomenal athletes. Linsay Perry was one of our coaches as part of triathlon, which was for me so exciting because I'd looked up to him through my comrades days, listening to all his training. And I mean, I got to run with him at Commonwealth and do some training runs with him. It was mind blowing. Rihanna Robertson, she was one of the other coaches, which she had obviously coached us leading up to Commonwealth with swimming. So yeah, there was everything was just mind blowing. And I honestly didn't think, as someone that didn't really even know about sports and competing, I was at this level in my life. It was a surreal, definitely a surreal moment.
So what was one of your defining moments, one of your biggest moments? Was there a specific race, a setback you overcame, a breakthrough in performance? Was that the one?
You know, it's everything leading up to then, and then obviously that day. You know, you think you know what's going to happen, how it's going to pan out, but stepping onto that start line with all those athletes that you've done actually a lot of triathlons with, because like I said, when you're competing on the World Triathlon platform to gain points, you know most of the women that you're competing with. It's the same ladies. I mean, the para-athletes are a very small pool of ladies. So you actually get to know them very well. And there might be one or two countries that are new, but the majority are people that you're getting to see all the time. But the Commonwealth Day, that race day was phenomenal. Obviously, it was during COVID as well, or just after COVID. So, you know, we were all still in masks, and, you know, nobody wanted to get sick because, you know, you didn't want to be taken away. You wanted to still compete. So everybody
the crowds were small.
Yeah, it was small. I don't think it was as big as what it could have been. But it was mind blowing. And, you know, running on that same venue that the other athletes were running on, finishing up with your bicycle, just the transition, having the crowds watch you, cheer for you. It really was something it was unforgettable. So yeah, going through for lawn bowls now in 2026, I mean, I don't know what to expect, at all. But I can just imagine it will be just on a completely different level, you know, to what I'm used to in terms of bowls, you know.
So in training and competition, what does your typical week look like? Just in terms of your volume, your sessions, your recovery, and all of that?
So competing with para-triathlon, it was especially leading up to Commonwealth. I mean, we were training twice a day, every day, trying to fit in work too and family life. So it was really juggling everything.
And sorry, would it normally be different modalities? You'd like swim in the morning, cycle in the afternoon, or what?
Yes,
How would you?
exactly. So a little bit of strength work, or some warm up with strength work, warm up on the bike. A lot of multi, it just depending on what the coach would put out for you, just trying to get everything in, your endurance rides, plus your endurance running. Even though we were doing sprint, obviously you're doing those longer distances as well, your short and sharp runs.
And this would be 7 days a week? Five?
Leading up to Commonwealth, almost 7 days a week, to fit in everything.
Strength training. What would you focus on? Like just overall workout, squats,
lunges, your deadlifts, free weights, lots of free weights, that sort of thing. So
and with the lawn bowls.
So listen, this lawn bowls is very different. I think my husband and I like to stay fit because it's you're on the green for at least 3 hours when you're playing. And really that does play a toll on your body. You think it doesn't, but standing there for 3 hours, there's no sitting. It does play a toll. And I can definitely see it on the elderly that are playing. They don't manage if there's 3 games a day. So for example, on the 2nd of November, I'm playing in a 4s game and it's 3 games in one day. And for people that aren't fit, I think they really do feel it. There's no specific training in terms of lawn bowls now that I have to do X, Y, and Z, to stay fit. But I still run, I still cycle. And that was something that I wanted to mention is that I'm actually taking a team down to the Double Century in November, through Soweto in South Africa. And so not obviously, but I also applied to be a part of the team because it's a para team. And the team was announced in September. So I'm part of that. So I've been training, doing cycling leading up to this. So I think that I'm quite fit now and ready for bowls. So I'm looking very forward to getting back onto the green and playing. I played in my first league game on Saturday. It was really nice to be back, but no specific training for lawn bowls.
At the end of the day, obviously the fitter you are, the more you keep focused and
absolutely that mental stability, and again the mindset. I fully believe this. So on most days that I'm playing lawn bowls, I'll definitely go for a run in the morning, or I'll jump on the indoor trainer for an hour before, just to get the mind going, get the body going, warm up, get your mind ready for what you're about to walk into on the day. So I still do train before bowls, every bowls game that I play.
So on the mind-body side, how do you manage your motivation? How do you, your self-doubt, your mental load, and just, setbacks at the end of the day? How do you manage it?
I think what's important is, when you start your day off in the morning is to have gratitude. And that's exactly what I do. Starting off with gratitude, a good cup of coffee, a very good cup of coffee, will really set my mind for the day. Being visually impaired, we are, and anybody that has or that is visually impaired knows that having to be proactive is part of our lifestyle. We are very, very organized people. And if we're not organized, we will fall into a trap. So everything is organized in advance, from meal prep to your work environment, to your having to go out with your transport. Everything is organized way in advance. I mean, I know exactly what I'm doing for this week and this weekend already, where we're going, who I need to be with, what transport I've had to arrange. Our lives are very organized, and I think that's actually a good thing because I'm very disciplined in that way. In terms of managing my life and my lifestyle. And I feel that I probably could also do a lot more. So my output, I do a lot. I really do. I'm involved in so much. And yet I'm not sick. I hardly get ill. I try and maintain a positive mindset through whatever I'm doing. And there are a lot of setbacks, believe me. Everyone always says it looks so easy. But I mean, my husband puts up with a lot. It's not easy having to have someone that's visually impaired in the house. And there's lots of challenges internally, but just remaining positive and reminding myself about who I am, what I'm trying to achieve, I think is important. And it's so far, it's done me well.
Yeah, no, you sound like a very busybody.
Yeah.
But, you mentioned just challenges. So what are some of the biggest logistical or systematic challenges that you've encountered as a visually impaired athlete in South Africa, equipment-wise or guides or funding?
So before Uber was really very popular, if I could put it that way, and I think also from a safety aspect, transport was probably the biggest thing. So getting around from different functions or to work or, around picking my daughter up, things like that. So transport is always a challenge. So I'm finding myself having to rely on people a lot, which is not always nice. I mean, jumping in your car and going off to do something on your own, even if it is just on your own, is something that I think it's a sense of independence. So when that's sort of taken away from you, that's a huge challenge. Different things like lighting contrast definitely plays a role. So if I'm coming from a very bright outside outdoor area to an indoor area, that's normally pretty, or even like this, there's that adaptation from light to dark, which is challenging, especially when I was actually on the Stargardt's trial. That was one of the side effects, is that medication that we were on, that adaptation from a dark room, light outdoors into a room was terrible. It was horrific. But I still face those challenges even without the medication. So I would probably say getting around is the biggest thing. We do also have a lot of things, I think, that help us now. So like my phone is pretty much my best friend. I use the Zoom function for a lot of things. So it used to be an issue going into a restaurant and reading a menu or having to rely on someone to read it for you. But now I just take a photo, I enlarge it. I feel independent that way. I don't have to listen to things all the time, like what's people eating and little things like that. So, you try and just self-help yourself kind of thing, instead of having to rely on people all the time. Again, my visual impairment is very different to a lot of people. So my visual impairment might not be as severe as others, but there are some lovely apps out there that help you. So Be My Eyes, there's a few others that talk to you, will tell you what the room looks like if you take a photo. Some really, really great apps out there. So I suppose that could be a challenge, but it's also something that's quite invigorating, is to educate yourself and get to know these different apps so that you can adjust and you can be independent without having to rely on everyone all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So in your view, what are the most important changes needed in South African sports, locally or globally, to ensure that, para-athletes have equal opportunity, visibility and support? Is there anything that, in your view, that you could maybe think that they need to change from their side, maybe?
It would definitely be giving para-athletes equal visibility and corporate support. Representation matters. When people see us compete, it changes perceptions. I think there's not enough awareness in South Africa for parasport. I see it now with the initiative that I've taken on with the DC. So a para-athlete contacted me in November last year, and he's also been competing on international level, Oswald Kidd. He's an amputee. And he said to me, he's got this crazy idea. Let's put a mixed para team on the start line of the double century. So listen, we had to get permission to do this. We had to go to the organizer and say, listen, this is what we'd like to do. You've never had para athletes, or maybe you have had one or two within other teams, but they've never had an actual mixed para team on their start line. So we had to get special permission, which they gave us. And so we took this project on, and asking for funding for this project, for me as a para-athlete, I'm so excited, but it's that perception from the corporates. They just don't get it yet. They don't understand it. They don't see the value in it. And what we are going to achieve in November is something that's never been done in South Africa before. It's never been done on the start line of DC. And DC is a grueling cycling event. It's 202 kilometers with over 2,000 elevation. It's not just one of these nilly-willy things you decide to wake up tomorrow and do. It's something our athletes have been training for since March. We have a very, very strict training regime. But going back to the corporates, it's been very difficult trying to get funding. There are one or two that are very excited. And when you're personally affected as well with parasport, so you have maybe a mom that's visually impaired, or an uncle that's an amputee, or your grandfather that's in a wheelchair, you have a better understanding, and then you're pretty willing to give. But it's that awareness, it's creating that awareness.
Education.
Absolutely.
All the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've knocked on a lot of doors, and we've had some great sponsors come on board. We've Cell-C, for example, we're riding as the Cell-C team, which we haven't actually told anyone yet, but just file away, we're running as the Cell-C team. We have Southern Sun that's supporting us, and so many other great brands that have come on board, but there could be so many more. And I think it's such a great story, a great PR story, to show that you're supporting inclusion. So we really are hoping, we're actually hosting a pre-race event at Bidon with Circular Solutions Investments at the end of January, the 25th. And we're inviting current sponsors that have been part of this event, and we're actually inviting other corporates that we feel could possibly be interested in this event, because we want to do it again next year. In fact, if we could put 2 teams on the start line, we would. And I think it's just creating that awareness, creating the education, because we have some phenomenal athletes out there. They just haven't been given the opportunity. Even for me as an individual, or when I was on my personal journey, I think that was also one of the reasons why I gave triathlon up, because from a funding aspect, it became really expensive. So not only are you paying for yourself as the athlete, but you have to get your guide there too. So the guide is giving up the time and the effort and everything else that they're putting into it. But at the end of the day, you have to fund that person to come with you. And it could actually cripple you financially. So funding is a very, very difficult. I see it right across the para athletes that I've competed with. So through Retina South Africa, trying to create a parasport development program where we can actually get corporates on board to give us funding to actually take parasport to the next level. We've got some phenomenal athletes that are even retina members that have visual impairments that would love to compete internationally, but they would never be able to afford it. So if we had this program, it would be excellent. But again, it's creating that education and awareness for the corporates. Definitely.
Okay, let's just delve into your training again.
Okay.
So how do you prioritize your recovery, your nutrition, your sleep, your mental wellness? Is there golden rules sort of set, and you're saying, hey, I'm going to make sure I sleep 8 hours every night? Or are you a good sleeper? Or
Yeah. No, listen, I love my sleep. Hey, I absolutely love my sleep. I do have a daughter though. And obviously she's still very young. So always wanting mom at the middle of the night. Well, not always, but if something's up, then they would. But I love my sleep, and I think sleep is really, really vital. And I've learned that performance starts with wellness. I focus on good sleep, balanced meals, and mental reset time. I try and balance that in life. I've also changed the way I eat. So I try and eat dinner really early. So from a 4:30, 5 o'clock dinner regime, to give the body time to sort of absorb and rest, and not overworking itself while I'm sleeping.
So you're basically going almost in a fasting phase, because the next morning then you
only eating again.
Yeah.
Yes. But just making sure that I have enough protein that I've taken in through the day, balanced with carbs and fats and that sort of thing. I focus very much on protein, especially as a woman. My protein intake is quite a bit. Drinking a lot of water. Listen, I love my coffee and my tea. I shouldn't probably drink as much as what I do, but I think I'm very diligent in terms of a good balanced diet, and it definitely does pay off. Even being on the tandem this weekend, I mean, weight is a huge thing, so maintaining a good diet and not thinking, well, I train so hard, let me reward myself with a chocolate. No, you actually have to be diligent and rather reward yourself with sleep. And there's a lot of other good things in life. So just learning to adapt and not sort of, overthink things.
So are there any specific wellness habits or routines or rituals that you have that you believe in? You have to have your shotgun coffee in the morning, or is there like some?
No, not really. I mean, again, I enjoy my coffee in the morning. We have a good nutrition plan, in terms of our races and what we do. So leading up to DC now, we have a certain regime that we have. But if I didn't have something and that I normally take, it's not sort of like critical mode. I'm pretty flexible, and I don't have to do everything the same all the time. I mean, even though my life is very structured and very routine orientated, I'm not, if something doesn't go the way it should, it's not a huge train smash. I don't know if I've answered that correctly.
Yeah. So what would you say are some of the key takeaways, just from the journey that you've now taken, to anyone wanting to push beyond their perceived limits as an athlete or a non-athlete sort of thing? Yeah.
What are the key takeaways? I think that you shouldn't let your impairments hold you back in life. I think that there are huge opportunities within the para sport community, especially within South Africa right now. And it doesn't matter if you're getting involved with cricket, soccer, triathlon, lawn bowls. There's actually so much available in South Africa that people mustn't be scared to just put up their hands and say, you know what, I want to try this, and ask for help. So even with our different campaigns within Retina South Africa, I really try and include people that have impairments. So for example, I Ride for Sight. We specifically have a para category. So remember I mentioned I was offered a disabled entry in 2020. It used to be called the disabled category. It's now called the para category. And that's just inviting any para athlete to come and enjoy cycling. There's a lot of people out there, though, that would love to, but are too scared. So there we offer tandem bicycles. So as of now, we start putting surveys out so that people can volunteer to be pilots. So sighted pilot on a tandem bicycle that could take a visually impaired athletes on the back. We even have patients that are TBI patients, stroke patients, that sort of thing. They can't be on a single bicycle. We're happy to put them on the back of a tandem bicycle. We have young children, again, if they're not secure enough or feel safe enough to be on the back of a tandem, we have those little buggies that the single bicycles take them in. So just providing those opportunities for para athletes all the time. Our golf day, which we have with Dischem as well, we had a blind team on the course this year again. So I'm always just trying to make sure that there's an opportunity to include people with visual impairments or physical impairments of that matter. And there'll be a lot of initiatives going forward as well. So like the DC initiative we're doing now, we have a Bowls for Sight as well. So just including.
So looking ahead, what's your short-term and your long-term goals?
So personally, lawn bowls, for now, the goal would be 2026. Commonwealth Games, that's definitely my short-term goal. The double century, I want to compete and actually complete the event with my fellow athletes. There's 12 of us on the start line in November, and we want to finish all 12 of us. So that would be my short-term goal. And long-term goal, it would be incredible if I think they are actually bringing lawn bowls to Paralympics for the first time ever in 2032. So that would be my long-term goal for lawn bowls. And then in terms of what I'm doing now with Retina South Africa and the other impactful events that I do is, again, just creating awareness for corporates, motivational speaking at different wellness events, educating people, showing people that, you know what, I am visually impaired, but I'm very capable, and educating the HR managers that are not employing these people and giving them opportunities. So just hosting impactful events where there are key takeaways for people, leaving there going, great, I've learned something today.
It's excellent. Definitely motivating me today, as I mentioned earlier. So if you had a message to your younger self at the point of your diagnosis, what would you say that day that you were diagnosed?
I would say you will lose sight, but you'll gain vision. Trust in the journey. Definitely, that's what I would say to my younger self, because like I said, I was in denial for a very long time, very self-conscious, very just not wanting to talk about it.
And obviously uncertainty. I think it's that uncertainty that creates that darkness.
Absolutely. And how will I be accepted? How will I be perceived? Even though in life they say that you should never worry what other people think. But the reality is you do. And
you feel maybe that you've got like this, red spot on your head, and everybody's looking at it.
Absolutely. And for me, and it's so strange, when I was younger, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that would agree with me, is that looking at someone in their eyes is, I think, something very important. You can gauge a lot from someone when you are looking at them in their eyes. And now I can't do that. So unless I'm really in your personal space, I can't see your eyes. I can't see I cannot understand what you're thinking or pick up what you're thinking. And it's so strange that is the one thing that I always thought was so important when I was younger, is that engagement. And now I don't have that anymore. And I'm always wondering, like, where am I looking? Like, do I look strange, looking up, looking down? And that. So I'm sort of like taught myself to kind of, focus on where your eyes are, on where I'm looking. But actually, as a matter of fact, I can't see. But that's okay. And accept me for who I am. I'm here to make a difference. I'm here to inspire. And I'm here to get more para-athletes on the start line, and it doesn't matter what sport. So I might only know one or two within myself, but there are other people that I know. So, yeah, it's just great.
No, excellent.
Yeah.
So let's just quickly have some quick fire questions.
Yes.
Some fun questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So your favorite training snack?
Peanut butter on anything.
Okay. Last song you listened to before a race?
I would say Unstoppable by Sia.
So that is it normally just before races, or is that one of your favorites?
Yeah, normally before a race, or it is one of my favorites. But I have a huge playlist, but that is one of the ones I really enjoy.
And then a non-sporting hobby or something that you love to do or enjoy?
I love baking. Absolutely love baking, and spending time with my daughter, in the kitchen. Yeah. Those are the two things.
I'm sitting with the same issue. My wife loves baking. So my question is then, who's eating all your baking?
So that's the thing, because my husband has no self-control over anything sweet. So I can bake it, but I'm not allowed to leave it in the house. So I don't actually bake as much as what I would love to, because it's just, don't bake because I'm going to eat it. So
that's the problem. We've got like this glass thing there, and it's always muffins and everything in there, and you walk past it the whole day. That's the problem.
I know. So that's where the self-control comes in, right?
Yeah. So is there any book or podcast that you would recommend for the listeners out there? Maybe anything that you...
I really enjoy Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Okay. I'll have a look at that.
Yeah.
So we've covered so much. I think, is there any last message maybe that you want to maybe just share with the audience, something inspirational or something that you want to just leave us last thought with?
So an action for the listeners first, before my final message, is that I think if you can support inclusion, I think there's a possibility of changing someone's life drastically, not in a small way, drastically. Buying a raffle ticket with any charity. I mean, it could be Retina South Africa. We have some lovely raffles going on now, and our money goes towards parasport development, where we're changing lives. But any charity, really. I mean, there's so many good ones out there that are doing so many good things. And the thing is, a raffle ticket, there's normally a win-win situation, right? So why not buy one? Volunteering as a pilot through our program with Retina South Africa, to be a pilot for someone that's visually impaired could change their life. And just allowing us to create awareness. So if we're sharing something, please just share it onto your networks, because someone will read it and enjoy it and support us. So my final message though is, don't let what you can't do stop you from doing what you can.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And with that being said, look, I think, with this podcast going out, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that's going to be inspired and find, inspiration in your message, as I've also done today. So from our side, yeah, I just want to thank you so much for obviously, giving us this time and just a snapshot in the day and life of Linsay Engelbrecht. We really enjoy it. And looking forward to the future. And we're going to definitely keep an eye on you. And good luck.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. And always feel very privileged to be contacted if I need to tell my story, and happy to do it. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.